and love to see you folks here in the classroom as well. So my name is Catherine. I'm the Director of Education at KCRAR. I work full-time down in Leawood, but happy to be here anytime I can in the Northland. So for those in person, how many of you have been here before to this classroom? Awesome. So this is kind of like your hub a little bit. Okay. Well, we are looking to offer more live CE classes here this year. So those will be Tuesdays and Fridays primarily. I try to do Tuesday afternoons to kind of avoid those Teams meetings that happen on Tuesday mornings. So look at the KCRAR calendar for those. You're gonna find lots of variety of topics, core classes, things like that. And then definitely, if Leawood is a little bit further for you, we have lots of Zoom options and then on demand. And those are available to all of our membership. So, and for you on Zoom, if you love Zoom, check out some. I think we have 13 topics approved for Zoom CE, and then we have 6 topics approved for on demand. So I just want to share a couple things before I hand things over to Stacy, our presenter. But the next Latte and Learn is going to be hybrid again. It's going to be hosted down I'm from San Diego, so I don't know where am I, down, up, whatever. But it's going to be in Leawood, and that's going to be, we're calling it Latte and Land, so we got a little creative. So Latte and Land, learn to buy, sell, lease, and flip land. And the presenters are going to be Bill Reagan, Tim Hadley, and Michaelin Molina. So we're excited to have those 3 come and present on land, something we haven't brought to a Latte and Learn session before. So that's gonna be February 9th, again, in person in Leawood, and then available on Zoom for those that want to attend that one. And then the next thing, and my final announcement, is we are bringing At Home with Diversity certification to KCRAR. It's gonna be a virtual only session on February 1st. It is a full day session from 9 to 4 p.m. or 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. with a 1-hour lunch break. This is approved for 6 hours of elective CE credit in both Kansas and Missouri, and you can earn your At Home with Diversity certification. So if you haven't done that, consider doing that. It's $35 for the course, which is an overall $99 value. If you were to go on the NAR site and take it on your own, it would cost $99. So we're offering it to membership for $35. Then once you complete the course, if you choose to move on to the certification process, there's a one-time $40 application fee to the NAR. But you'll be able to use the At Home with Diversity on your signature line, on your business cards, things like that. That $40 is discounted from $75 through the end of the year. So we wanted to offer it early in 2024, get folks certified that are interested. So please consider that easy way to earn 6 hours of elective and cover some important topics. So, and you can register online. For those on Zoom, you can find it on our website, and then those in person, there's flyers here that you can grab and take home and get registered. So thanks for being here. We're excited to have Stacy. She is a national speaker. It's so fun when we have national level speakers here local that we can bring in to our membership and share their expertise. We're going to be bringing her back, I think in the summer, June or July, into our Leawood classroom for a Latte and Learn in the summer, so make sure to watch for that. But I'm going to let her do her full resume because it is extensive, and we're excited to have you, Stacey.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good morning, and thank you all for having me. And this is important here, what Warren Buffett is saying. The benefit of all of us being in the business is that we know what we're doing. There's nothing new that I'm going to tell you today about the fundamentals of what we do that you don't already know. Hopefully I'll just give you a different perspective to look at it, but we are all experts in what we do, and so the risk is minimized for us. And so just a little bit about me. I am just a realtor, so I've been licensed for, all I can say is it's over 45 years.
Stacy Johnson.
Yeah, that's good. I got my license before I got my degree from UOKC. So I'm a realtor, I'm an investor. I've been a real estate investor for close to 30 years along with my husband. And then I'm an advocate for housing. I don't know if all of you, if you watched the news, did you all see what happened in Kansas City yesterday? The 10-year-old rights of passed. Horrible. Horrible. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. It is absolutely deplorable. It is horrible for people like us who are in the business of investing and hoping that people invest in real estate. It is one of the most horrible things ever. But what you may not know is it's happening across the country. We'll touch base on that a little bit. But that's one of the things I think we all need to be advocates for our industry, and we need to know what's happening, and we need to speak out, or else being investors is not as attractive as it used to be and as it should be. So I'm an advocate at the local level, and at the state level, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're trying to do at the state level and the was just appointed, for the National Association of Realtors, the Property Management Forum. I was just appointed as vice chair. And the only way I got this, because I started going to the meeting saying, this stuff is happening in Kansas City, it's happening across the country. I went to NAR to say, are you all looking at this? Do you see it? Do you see the threat to private property rights? And this was in May of 2022. Nobody was talking about it. They weren't talking about it at the NAR level, so I kept going to meetings. And then ultimately, the current president appointed me as the vice chair of the Property Management Forum, so I get to bring my voice there. And then, as you said, as speaker, my goal is to share what I know and to learn, because in this room, there are people who are investors as well, so you know things that we can share with the room. So it's not just about me talking. If there's something that I say and you want to add to it or dispute it or have something to say about it, join in. We're all in this together. And move backwards. Okay, so my question, this is a question, please make it interactive, make it interesting for me, please. What are your dreams? What are your dreams for your future? I know what mine are. Anybody want to share? What are your dreams? Travel? That's mine too. I love beaches. Any other dreams?
Not going into debt, paying for my kids' college.
You all hear that? Not going into debt, paying for a kid's college. Smart. Anybody else?
I want to leave a financial legacy for my kids.
Leaving a financial legacy for his kids. And I think a lot of people want to do that. They may not think about it. They may not be intentional about it. So we're going to talk about that today. Other dreams? Any other dreams you want to share?
Help abandoned kids,
I'm sorry?
abandoned kids,
Help
help the kids.
Help kids.
Yeah.
Okay, in the family and out of the family. And help the kids, children that need help. I agree, that's one of mine too. I have a part of the program in my school districts to eliminate homelessness among students. And whatever we need to do, and you know, to eliminate homelessness, you need to create housing, so that's what we do. Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to pitch in and share what your dreams are?
Kind of exactly what you just said right there, being able to learn and be able to implement some of those things within the community and help those who may not already know, be able to give back. Teaching my kids, teaching all those around me, not be able to just flourish myself, be able to help others flourish around me as well.
Okay, very good. And then we are leaders. People look to us, our clients look to us, and others on the outside look to us. So we have to take our position as leaders. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else on Zoom want to share your dreams? Anybody? Okay, so we'll move on to my dream, traveling, helping, all the things you said are things that are important to me. And so Napoleon Hill, has anybody heard of Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich? He studied people who are wealthy. He gives us hope. He said, those who succeed in an outstanding way seldom do so before the age of 40. More often, they don't strike their real pace until they're well beyond the age of 50. Is anybody in the room beyond the age of 50? And so there's hope for us. On Zoom, there's hope for us. And so thank you to Napoleon Hill for saying that. I just saw in the paper, yesterday, it's all over the media. Did you all see this on CNN? I heard it on the radio this morning. Just yesterday, parents are still subsidizing their adult children. To this day, the article goes on to talk about that they are supporting their kids into their 20s and 30s. Does that make sense? It does not, it just doesn't. So one of the things that we can do is help our adult children into home ownership and property ownership. This could be a way for them to find something to do, because as we know, real estate is kind of a low barrier kind of business to start. We're entrepreneurs. Isn't it kind of easy to start real estate, not only as sales agents, but as investors? And so why not some of these people still living at home, why not getting them started? So the benefit of us doing this is that we'll be able to inspire them to get started. Today, we're going to determine and set your goal for retirement. How many of you have thought about retirement and have a retirement plan in place? Is it very specific? Sort of? That's what I was gonna ask. Is it specific? Do you know what year you're going to retire?
Sure.
I mean, do you have that plan? I'm asking, have you thought about that? Have you already planned specifically the year you're going to retire and how you're going to fund your retirement?
Technically, I am retired.
You're technically retired, okay. So,
Okay.
anybody else specific date and then a way to fund the retirement? Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom? You already have your retirement date selected, how you're going to do it, how you're going to get there? I heard a speaker.
Not yet.
Right, exactly. Hopefully by the time we finish today, we'll do that. I heard a national. I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay, I heard a national.
No, not there.
I don't know if she's talking here or she needs to. Okay, I heard a national speaker talking about the fact that real estate agents don't retire. They don't have retirement parties. how many agents in your office do you have a retirement party when they're about to leave? Does anybody see that happen? We just kind of fade away. We either stop selling houses, or the clients stop calling us, and it just accidentally happens, so we fade away, or we end up in another job. I want us to be more deliberate about that. My husband retired 6 years ago from his job with the city of Kansas City. The only reason he was able to retire is because of real estate. And he is very specific, very disciplined about it. He had the year in mind that he wanted to retire, and all the things that needed to happen in place, and he did it. And so I'm looking at him, as someone who actually did it. We want to create our plan to build our portfolio today. We're gonna structure the team. We know who we need on the team. We're gonna talk a little bit about it too, and create a written plan. And so many times you talk about things, you think, I'll do that later. We're going to actually write something today, so that when you leave, you have something in writing that you can execute. And then we're gonna talk about what we do after we leave. And so who in this room is an investor? Okay, so most of you are investors. Anybody online, investors? Just say, I can't see everyone. If you just say yes, if you're an investor, online, couple people, any?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, so we at least have a few.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we have a few in both places. So those of you who invest, what do you have? Let's talk about it. What do you have and what do you do? What's your angle?
Well, I have part ownership in 6 different properties.
Can you hear him? Part ownership in 6 different properties?
Correct, right, so we have an investment group at the office, there's 5 agents in each group, so we each own a percentage of the business, if you will, or have an equity position, a certain percentage of an equity position in the LLC. And within the LLC, one of them we have 4 properties, another one we have a single property.
And you buy and hold or do you flip them?
We buy and hold.
Oh, so they're rentals?
Yes, we have a property management company that oversees the properties for us.
Okay, very good. So an investment group in your office, on Zoom, can you hear him? Did you hear that? Anybody, were you able to hear him?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, so an investment group, so exciting, in your office. Anybody else? You're an investor, what's your angle, your focus?
My angle previously has just been flipping properties to build up capital, working capital, but my intention is to have, cash flowing properties that can sustain themselves. Because even right now, and granted, maybe it's because it's early in the season, but I'm having a very hard time trying to find something that is suitable.
So you're trying to find properties and not finding them out there? We're gonna talk a little bit about that too, about those find properties. So thank you. Who else is an investor, other hands to that? What is your?
Single family homes and, buy them, that need distress, they're distressed and need a lot of fix up and build in 20% equity and get a long-term loan on it.
And you keep your holding them for rentals?
Yes.
Okay, anybody, somebody else?
Yeah, I have a couple of single family buy and hold. My son's in one of them, so.
That isn't bad. Your son's in one of those.
He's renting from me, but probably not what I should be getting, so.
Right, that's right. The point is, he's building with equity no matter what you're building with equity while he's in there. Anybody else? Investor?
Yeah, actually, I just have one property right now. I'm house hacking a duplex. I'm Kansas City.
A duplex?
Yeah.
Are you living in?
Yeah.
Perfect, house hacks, okay, you had something.
I just kind of did what your husband did. We have 3 single-family homes that we've lived in for several years, and we sold them. We've actually cash flowed them very well, and I sold those and put it in other investments for now, and I retired from my full-time job.
Very good, very good. Thank you. Anybody online wanna tell us what kind of investment, what your specialty is as an investor?
I have rentals.
Is that
I
by-
think we have 8 doors now, so.
Okay, anybody else? Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Okay, so it sounds like we have a little bit of everything, and I love the thought that there is a group of agents that came together to do that. That's wonderful. What are some of the reasons that people choose real estate as an investment? Why real estate?
Appreciation.
Appreciation. What did you say?
Leverage.
Leverage, yes.
Cash flow.
Cash flow.
Taxes.
Taxes?
Yeah.
That's exactly right, yes. And to me, it's safe. Not only because I know real estate, but we know real estate is safe. People always need somewhere to live, whether they're renting it or buying it. It feels like a safe investment to me. I don't know anything about stocks. I don't know anything about all of those other type of investments. To me, they're so scary and risky because I don't know them. Remember the quote that Warren Buffett had up I know real estate. And so that's why I stick to real estate, and we know real estate is a safe investment. And so those of you who are trying to expand your business, what are some of the barriers that you may face? Or that you face getting started or building? Are there any barriers out there? What is it? Money's always a problem, always, the lenders.
Inventory.
Inventory.
Contract.
Is that Patrick, contractors, always a problem. You have a good contractor on one project, and by the next one, they may be off with the hand, so that is a problem too, steady. Anything else online? Any other barriers that we face? Anything else in the room?
Finding profitable properties, like right now, I know I'm looking for duplexes, but by time you balance what the leases are being set at, at time of purchase versus how much my mortgage would be.
Right. And so making the numbers work.
And regulations.
I just don't know enough about it.
Right, and then
That's gonna be coming off.
regulations, that is true, and that is newer, and especially during the pandemic, that all of these tenant protection laws and a lot of laws are coming out now that we didn't have to worry about before, so regulations, they're a big deal. And so today, why are you guys here today? What brings you here today? To learn. To learn. I think we're gonna learn from each other. Then some of you seasoned investors will pitch in and share things, so we'll have the benefit of having a lot of people here. And so clients, this is something we talked about earlier. It's not just for us. I think that every real estate agent, we should invest in our product. If nothing else, own your home. But beyond that, why not buy investment properties? But we have potential with a lot of clients. A lot of our clients, this is a way to build your business, not only to introduce first-time home buyers, and by being able to share why owning real estate is important, but expanding your client base. So think about the person you sold a home to maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and being able to go back to them saying, hey, if you have a dream of retiring, I have some ideas for you. Real estate could be a way for you to do that. And so for those people who've been in their homes for quite a while, to get them to start purchasing investment properties. And it's something that helps them. And many people want to retire. How many times do you hear people saying, oh, I wish I could retire, can't retire for 20, 15 years? If we can use real estate as a way to teach them how to retire, you can expand your current clients and your future pipeline by helping them realize the benefit of buying investment properties. So that's something to keep in mind, that you can, your current clients do that, and then make sure that your potential clients, maybe first-time home buyers, know the value of getting into real estate. When you see this chart, this came from the National Association of Realtors. When you see this chart, I wanna know what you think. And so you'll see right here, the number of black families that own a home, 43.4%. We keep hearing that in the news a lot about the gap. And then Hispanic families, only 51% own, Asian families, 61%, and of white families, only 72%. What do you see when you see this chart? What does this chart say to you?
There's a lot of potential for buyers.
That's what I see. That's the first thing I see is potential, instead of bemoaning the fact like, oh, only 43% or 51%. What about the, what is that, 57%? Is that right? That don't own a home, and the 50% here that don't. And we know almost all the people within our networks, everybody knows a real estate agent. But there are some people out here who obviously don't know real estate agents. So even with white families, 1 in 4 do not own a home. With the black families, Hispanic families, more than half don't own a home. So any environment you go into, you have a 50-50 chance of finding someone who doesn't own a home is a potential client. You have to figure out how do you get them to buy that first home and become future buyers of investment properties. And so just like I see potential, I think that's what business people see, but so many times people talk about this, and when we hear it in the news, it's in a negative way, like only 43%. But then that's potential for a salesperson. And then the question becomes, how do you find them? And so as salespeople, that's your homework and your research. How do you find those people that do not have an agent or access to an agent? How can you put yourself in front of them and build your business with them? And so mindset, it's all about mindset. And my goal for me, the people I'm with, my nieces and nephews, my husband and I don't have children, so everything that we have, we're building for our nieces and nephews. And so I want all of them to have a wealth mindset. So many times in what you see in the media with the tenant protection people, I see a poverty mindset. People, you're always going to rent, you need protections, you need to go get whatever you can from governmental sources. I reject that. And I think that's the poverty mindset, with people always assuming that people will always be renters or will always be poor. That is wrong. I operate from a wealth mindset that we all have the potential to create income and to create wealth, especially as real estate agents who sell properties. Wealth is something that we do all the time. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, has anybody heard of him? Napoleon Hill, I showed you a slide, quote from him earlier. When he died, he was in the middle of writing the book, Think and Grow Rich, and he was focusing on black millionaires. He had a stroke and died before he finished the book. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, who's a college professor in Atlanta, Georgia, finished the book. And so he has all kinds of stuff. And we'll talk about this a little bit later on YouTube, and all kinds of books talking about studying the wealthy, the black millionaires. And so anyway, I agree with him. I can become great by developing an attitude of greatness. If I think I'm great, I will be great. And I know that in the real estate space, I know that I am. And we all are, because this is what we do. Let's answer this. Who's a typical millionaire?
Your next door, yourself.
Say again?
Your next door.
Your next door neighbor or yourself, that's right, that's right. Who else, what thoughts do you have? Who's a typical millionaire?
Athletes?
Athletes? Entertainers, and people get all that money. But typical, that's not typical, so it's
Some people that own real property.
people that own
People
real
that have
estate.
assets totaling $1 million more.
So if you have assets totaling $1 million.
Because your celebrities can earn it, but they also know how to spend it. They're not smart enough to make their money make more money.
So they're
They don't-
keeping it.
They're not investing, they're spending.
How many athletes do we hear about that lose
They
all
go
of their money? They have all that money.
Same as one of the lottery as well.
The lottery, that's right. And so people in real estate, we are more deliberate. And so the typical millionaire is someone that is right next to you. It's your neighbor, somebody that you don't know. It's not the person. Now, we'll talk about like the books that talk about the study of the typical millionaire. It is not the person driving the fancy car with the fancy clothes and the big house and all of the purses and all that kind of stuff, the designer person. It is not them. Chances are great, more often than not, that they're wearing their wealth on their bodies and in their homes. It is the person who is next door, and it's the typical person. So the people who have studied this, Dr. Thomas Stanley, he wrote the book Millionaire Next Door. I mentioned Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, of course, we know Napoleon Hill. They all talk about millionaires. And so the big question is, why is one person wealthy and another poor? Mindset. Yes, and education and knowledge. And that's where we come in as real estate agents. We're in a position where we can help change mindsets. Only a home changes a person's life. And so the Brookings Institution came up with 3 simple rules to follow to avoid poverty. Anybody know there? Give me anything? How do you avoid poverty? And over 90% of these people who follow these 3 simple rules are not poor. What are the rules?
Spend over your means.
So, okay, spend less than you make, spend less than you earn. Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom care to guess any of the 3 simple rules to avoid poverty?
Education.
Somebody said education. Did somebody on Zoom say something? Was that Rochelle?
Invest in real estate.
Invest in real estate, I like
Keep a
that.
job. Keep working.
Keep a job, keep working. Anything else? Anything else on Zoom? Here it is. Number 1, work full-time. Number 2, get married before you have children. It's kind of controversial to say that now, huh? Number 3, finish high school. It does not say college, it says finish high school. And I add a bonus, own a home. And I also say 2, spend because cut your expenses, spend wisely, pay down your debt. And for me to live debt-free is the answer. And so these things, the things that the institution found is if you have these 3 things in place, chances are you will not be poor. And so imagine us enhancing that with home ownership. Dr. Thomas Holt, has anyone heard of him?
Oh, yeah.
He's an economist that is wonderful. He's 93 years old. He just wrote his 4th book. The only way to get rid of poverty is to create wealth. Those who create the wealth destroy the poverty. We have the power to do that as real estate agents, and it can happen with the sale of a single home. And so we know, I want homeowners, when I do home buyer workshops, I want homeowners to potential homeowners to realize you're not just buying shelter. So many times they just want somewhere to live. You want to buy a house just because you want to own a house. I want them to think about what homeownership means. It's a gateway to the middle class. And homeownership can lead to wealth creation. So simply owning a home is not just a roof over your head, but it's a way of leaving a legacy behind, generational wealth. Then the question, why do some fail and others succeed? Dr. Jeanette Cole, I like quotes. Can you tell? Dr. Jeanette Cole was the president of Spelman College. He said, show me someone who is content with mediocrity, and I will show you somebody destined to fail. Some people are okay with this simple, basic life. That's fine for them. But there are some of us who are looking for a little bit more. Andrew Carnegie said it best, 90% of all millionaires become so through owning real estate. So why isn't everybody owning real estate? The wealthy have big dreams, they have a vision, They don't listen to skeptics, because in this day and age, there are a lot of skeptics out there talking about those who have the haves and the have-nots. You heard a lot of that conversation, the oppressors and the oppressed, the renters and the landlords. They're pitting us against one another, and we don't listen to that. We're disciplined, dedicated to always learning. And I don't know how many videos on YouTube, how many classes that we will always continue to go to. And they are unapologetic. There's a young man that I know, we were at the auction on the courthouse steps for taxes. And he was standing there talking, he's a young guy, has little tennis shoes on, a white t-shirt. A young guy, he happens to be black, and he was just talking about different properties that he owned. And one thing he said, oh yeah, that house over there, that's the one that made me rich. And I stopped and I said, wow, he said that out loud. He's unapologetic about it, he said it. And so many times we don't talk out loud about wealth and what we may have, when it could be an inspiration for others. And then he said that, just blew my mind and caught my attention. At that point, I said, I'm going to talk about what I do and what I have in a way to not only inspire others, but to show that there are others out here that are doing the same thing. He just said it out loud without fear. And so many times people are scared of what they have. I think we can't have shame. And in a world today with a lot of the tenant protections and a lot of the socialist activist groups, their goal is to make us feel bad for having. For those of us who have, their goal is to make us feel bad about it. Because keep in mind, socialists think that no one should own private property, they should all be government owned. So that's the attitude that we're fighting against. I call that the poverty mindset. You want to say
Oh,
something?
that's what I mean.
Huh?
Yeah, that one, the last one.
Right, the unapologetic?
Yeah.
Right, that he just said it out loud, without fear. He talked about what he had. And so, what is wealth? What does that mean? What is wealth?
Choices.
Choices, options. Well, what else?
Peace of mind.
A mindset.
Peace of mind, and it's a mindset. What else? And it's whatever you want it to be. Some people, it's not about money. It's about other things. Any other thoughts about what wealth is? Anybody on Zoom?
Be your freedom of time,
Freedom.
do what you want, when you want.
You said at the same time, the person on Zoom, Kara said at the same time that you said the word freedom, to do what you want, when you want, if you want. So wealth could be about freedom for people. It's what you decide. It's having enough to be financially comfortable for me. And so assets minus your liabilities equals your net worth. So many times people define wealth by your net worth. What are you worth? And so when I'm talking to homeowners and home buyer workshops, I'm reminding them that the benefit of home ownership in 2020 and 21, the National Association of Realtors said the average net worth of a homeowner is $320,000 versus $8,000 for a renter. Where would you rather be? And so we need our clients to see that and to know that, and to visualize that through their home is not just shelter, it is helping them to build wealth. And when they pass away, it's something that they're leaving behind to their children. And it is kind of a race. I don't know how many years ago, participated in my first 5K. My husband was talking about something that's like, aha, I'm gonna do that too. And so I'm not an athlete by any stretch of the imagination, but I did participate in 5K. So I did the 5K and I finished it, and I was so happy. I got close to the finish line, it's like, oh, it's there. And I could have gone faster, I could have done more, but I was holding back, and I saw the end line, and then I picked it up. What I learned maybe 2 or 3 years later, when I was on the internet, is that that stuff is public, and that it is in competition. And they had by name, by age group, and who won, and the rankings by age group. I had no idea. I had no idea that it was a competition and that it was public. Had I known, I would have done what? I ran faster. But I didn't, I wasn't aware, and it just shamed me so much. And then all the ones after that, I knew, and I knew that it was a race, it was a competition. I think homeownership as well is too. And so I want my clients and customers to know that there is a goal, there's a benefit in watching when the values of the property goes up. When you hear it on the news that there's like, yes, my equity's going up, I want them to hear that. So I want them to visualize it. So this is where I use my home buyer workshops. If you buy a property in 24 for 100,000, 5 to 10 years, it could be worth 150, which means you just earned 50,000. I want them to look at it in that way, to think about equity just like that. And that's a future inheritance, pays for college, or you use it to buy your next property. I want them to be mindful of the fact that equity is part of the wealth that you're building, especially if you own the home. And so I had a neighbor who I sold a home to in my neighborhood. He bought his house for maybe $215,000, $220,000. And just this summer, this fall, we had the house across the street from him, similar to his house, just sold for $425,000. Across the street from him, and I'm looking at that, and every time when it came on the market, you know, it came on pre and all that, it's like, there's no way that's selling. Sure enough, it did, first day, list price. And I sent him a text saying, hey, the house across the street from you just sold for $425,000. It's like, oh yeah, I met the people, they're nice. It's like, that's all you took out of it? I mean, that's all you took out of it. I said, you just gained maybe almost $200,000 worth of equity just because that house said, oh, I never looked at it that way. I want my clients to look at it this way, that your home, the equity in your home and only the home earns you money. It is the piggy bank. And so I think that's so important. Now, this is my niece. The Kansas City Stores told the story during the pandemic about home ownership. And I took it, they were kind of bemoaning the fact that, you know, the rates were low, there's too much inventory. And I took a different twist to it when the reporter called me. I said that my niece is looking at it in a different way. A lot of people who own homes are going to sell and they're gonna cash out with that equity. So it's not a bad thing necessarily, maybe bad for buyers, but it's good for those who own real estate. And so my niece Chloe, what she ended up doing is putting her house, but she was starting to look at what, and she had purchased her home maybe 3 years before this. She started looking at what things were selling for her neighborhood. And she called and said, Aunt Stacy, these houses are selling for a lot of money. I think I want to sell mine. Long story short, she put her house on the market and put over $52,000 in her bank account as a 20-something-year-old. Where else does that happen? It happens with real estate. And so for our clients, we need them to know that real estate is a way to, wealth, you build wealth, and she's smart enough, she works at a bank, so she's smart enough to look at that, and she stayed with her brother, who purchased his home at the same time, and had 4 nieces and nephews in a 2-year period buy their homes, which made us so happy. But then she went and stayed in her brother's room, she bought another house, the house that she found that she bought, she had instant equity of $88,000 when she bought it, and now she's going through room by room and doing everything in the house. So she's an investor who lives in her properties, which is smart. So financial wellness check, we're going to do that to find out who you are. Because some of us don't look at our numbers, yes?
So, this might be a question asked later, how did it sound like your family had a financial understanding? Where did that come from?
So again, our family has a
Financial understanding, that you don't have a 2-year-old or something like that who gains that kind of understanding at that early age, unless maybe there are people around them with that kind of understanding. Where did that come from?
in our family, so that that's something that we can start and create today. My mom was a single mom. My parents were both military veterans, and when we got divorced or whatever, from my dad, my mom owned, she bought her homes. We always owned a home. My grandparents owned their homes. My grandfather built his. My husband was raised by a single mom, 5 kids. She owned her home. And so all we do is home ownership in our family. It was a tradition, a family legacy we just took for granted. So when my husband and I were married, we rented for the first year, and then we knew when that lease ended, we were going to buy a home. Our nieces and nephews, all of my siblings, all of my husband's siblings have owned homes before. My nieces and nephews, almost all of them are in home ownership. It's just what we do, our family legacy, and that we model. And it makes me happy. Now some of them are getting into investment, which makes me really happy. And so we set the example for the family legacy and talk about it. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna set our goals for today. So here's where my goal came from. This is what made me stop and think and to get deliberate about it. So there was a real estate agent, how many years ago? And she started talking about, she came from being a teacher, and two of her friends, so 3 of them were leaving the teaching industry where they have retirement and all kinds of benefits. She was leaving that profession, coming to real estate to sell real estate. And she looked at the fact that we don't have pensions and benefits and retirement plans. So with their goal, her specific goal, was she was going to buy 10 houses that all rented for $600 each. When her tenants paid them off, she would retire. To me, that was a light bulb moment, so brilliant and so simple. 10 houses. And we know that by the time she retired, they would be making more than the $600 a month. And she'd have equity in all of those houses. How many millions of dollars worth of real estate would that be? Does that make sense? And it is that simple. And so with that in mind, my husband and I decided that we were going to do that. We're going to start investing. And our first property that we bought was a duplex over at the Art Institute north of the plaza. And so here's a visual of how real estate makes you wealthy. And we talk about this, either monthly revenue, the cash flow from the property if it's a rental, or your equity of the property when it appreciates. And then the benefits, the wealth, you preserve your wealth with tax benefits. And so here's a way to not only make money, but you get to save it and preserve it while you're generating income. Am I missing anything, real estate investors? Is it that simple? It is. And real estate is the answer. And so here's another thing that I do in my home buyer workshop to make sure they visualize it and what it means. So we've already talked about having $50,000 worth of equity in a property. And so let's say you buy a property to rent, and these days, with the housing authority, with the Section 8 voucher, a 3-bedroom unit anywhere in the city, you can make $1,500 a month. Just that's just baseline. You buy it, you know you'll find a renter. That may not be the market you wanna be in, but if you end up in that market with a property, you know, if you're better, you're gonna get $1,500 a month. And so in a year, you generate $18,000 with that property. In 5 years, you're generating $90,000 with that property. So if you own 7 homes, and you can do that over the years, that's $90,000 per year. That's 600, and all in that 5-year period of time, that's $630,000 in rent that you're generating in 5 years with 7 properties.
That's just rent only.
That's rent only. Equity from those same properties, assuming that by the time you get to the end, is $50,000 per property, that's $350,000 worth of equity. They can still have loans on them, not have been paid off. You have $350,000 worth of equity, you have $630,000 worth of rent, and those 7 properties in a 5-year period, what do we have? We have almost a millionaire. Simply owning 7 properties. You buy them right in the right neighborhood. So in my mind, having clients, potential buyers, when they're coming in to talk about their very first home, have them look at this. It's like it's more than just about that home. So it's a way to position it to them so they understand the value of home ownership and investing. And for me, it's helpful to look to it for investors so that we're intentional about how we make our plan to create wealth. And keeping in mind, for some people, those first-time home buyers, I'm telling you, their first investment property can be your own home. You own it, you buy it, you live there, and then you rent it out, you got your first property. Then you move on and buy the next one, and so on and so on. Any questions or thoughts? Does this make sense, or anybody want to add anything to it?
Just live in your house 2 years before you sell it in 5.
That's right, so she's
So you
saying,
don't have a capital
To
gains
avoid
tax.
capital.
and we're gonna talk about that, but that is a great point. You live in your house for 2 of the 5 years, and then when you sell it, and you have your big pot of equity, you're not gonna pay capital gains tax on that. There is a investor that that an agent in my office used to work with, that's what they would do. They buy high-end houses, and they live in them, fix them up, sell them, and get big chunks of money, then move on to the next one, and so on. So that is a good
I'll
strategy.
say, like, if you find a good CPA, you can write off a lot of taxes on these properties too, so it'll be more than that 980, it'll be passing
It
around.
could be more than that, that's right. So this is minimum.
Yeah.
And so with CPA, it's critical to have on your team, so they can help you figure out ways to preserve this wealth. That is exactly right.
Well, one part of your equity that's not up there is just the yearly depreciation in itself. Because that equity is based on debt pay down, so you add in your, 3 or 4 or 5% per year on your job.
So it's even higher, so this is conservative. As an investor, all my numbers, everything's gonna be conservative in what I do. So that's right, so this really could be more. But the point of this, again, is to show 7 properties. What can you do? Only 7 properties. Anybody on Zoom with a question or any kind of feedback for us? All right. Anybody see this?
How do you find a good CPA for investing?
I think referrals. She asked how to find good referrals. Someone else is an investor. Who do you use? And what we specifically did is we found a CPA that works with real estate agents and real estate investors so that they know what to look for. A lot of the investment groups in town will have meetings, and just Landlords Inc. of Kansas City just had a meeting. We had a CPA presenting, talking about the different tax laws. So a lot of the investors, we're gonna talk about finding an investment in some of the real estate groups, the investor groups, they're talking amongst themselves. Who do you use for any of these things? Contractors and CPAs and other experts. Yes.
If we go to the before screen, it said 980, but we did not include the expenses.
The expenses, so there, you'll remember, this is very basic, so there will be expenses, there'll be mortgages, there will be expenses. This is just a visual, just to show the potential. And then you can go back and work through with the numbers about, what the property really is worth, what the equity is, and your monthly expenses on the property. This is just a visual to show that it can be done and what it looks like.
What is a good percentage, using your mortgage and your expenses versus your rent?
It depends. It truly depends. For my husband and I, we never, all the calculations where people calculating cap rates and all of those things, we never did that. When we purchased a property, we just looked at it. Does it make sense? If the house is worth 100 and I get to buy it for 50, I only have to put 10,000 in, it makes sense, we're doing the deal. It is that simple for us. We're not calculating any formulas or anything like that. It just has to make sense for us. And then when we know what the mortgage payment would be and what the rents are and all of our other fees, then we say, okay, it makes sense. The worst transaction that we ever had was a house that in 2007, 2008, caught us off guard, that we purchased that we were going to sell, did not sell in 30 days. It's like, that's odd. It was literally on the market for a long time. This is at the end of the market crash. We ended up putting it on the market for rent, and we only made $100 a month cash flow. Everything else, that's the lowest that we've ever had, ever. Most things, cash flow, maybe $300 or $400 a month. We were very fortunate in that, but that was the worst deal. And we ended up selling it. We paid 40 something for it. We just sold it a few years ago for like 140. And they, in turn, put work in it and sold it for like 250. But we decided not to do that. But that was the worst deal that we had, and it still was not bad.
You made equity during that time.
That's exactly right.
Up until the last 3 years.
Right.
Even though you didn't get a whole bunch off of that, then you
We did.
made that up.
Lose money.
Avalanche.
And we did, right, you're right, we did not lose money, and we actually, during that time, ended up bumping up the rent, so we ended up making more as we went along, because the market changed on us. So here's my information, my worksheet, I'm sharing it. And so we, until 2 years ago, and some of the regulations that we talked about caused us to sell some of our properties in Kansas City, because some of the laws just were not favorable for us, we sold them. So at the highest, we had 23 rental units, 23 doors, and then this is what we're down to, and we're kind of happy here. And so we have a triplex that's in South Hyde Park, so that's the first 3 units, 2 houses, a duplex west of Waldo unit here. And when we sold, we bought 2 condos in Branson, Missouri, short-term rentals. When we liquidated here, we started something else. And so it was a blessing in disguise. Our rents were traditionally under market. So these triplexes up here, those units, that's a 2-bedroom, that's a 3-bedroom, and this is a 3-bedroom that's available. There are a couple of vacancies here, but in these units up here, does anybody remember in 2019 when the Jackson County did their taxes and they came out and they were just horribly wrong? And so many people, they bumped up the property values, sometimes incorrectly, but even when they were correct. And so on that triplex, we had like a 3-bedroom unit, we had 2 3-bedroom units and a 2-bedroom unit, and we were renting out, we were happy, we were getting like $650 and $750. And so the 3-bedroom were getting like $700, $750. When the taxes, when we got the notice about the taxes, it said your property is now worth $150,000. Keeping in mind, we paid $72,500 when we bought it. I had an investor that wanted to look at it, and then he didn't want to buy it. It's like, and so we bought that years ago. So anyway, so the taxes, the county's telling me your house is worth, I think it was $150. It's like, it is not worth that. And so to test it, there was something on the market in the next block, the duplex, 2 bedrooms, 1 block away. Same or smaller square footage, they were getting like $1,200 rent a month, and here we were at $650 or $700. So, we didn't know. But we were happy getting what we got because the property was paid off, so it didn't matter to us. But then all of these tenant protection laws came along, and it just made us a little bitter. And it's like, okay, we're not going to keep staying under the market, we're going to go up to the market. So the market rate should really be $1,500. So those 2 units, we've had tenants in there 15 years, almost 10 years, so we're keeping the rents low. And so if you look at our monthly rent, let me say this really quickly. And so this particular property here, if you look at the rent, that generates for us $20,000 a year. Some people, that's what they earn in a year in a job. That is one property. So we look at each property, we appreciate each property that we have. We don't just take for granted, we look at it in that way. And so if you add up the monthly rent, this is what our properties generate for us per month. And that's 7 units, that's only 7 rental units in Kansas City, the condos. These were newer for us, so we're not sure where we're gonna end up with on that, because they could be higher, could be lower. That's just a rough estimate based on the time we've had. So that's what we make per month. And so if we ever have real estate, a real estate problem, am I worried about not selling a house? I'm not. So it's right there. And like I said, my husband retired. A full year, this is what we generate from those 7, 8, 9 units from real estate. We're not going to work every day. We're not spending 40 hours a week to make that money. We're not. And then you say, okay, but you have expenses. Yes, we have some expenses, but we don't have mortgage debt. Our properties are paid off. What my husband did is on any property that we have, and I didn't understand it when he was doing it, he would, we never took the money out, he rolled it right back in. So all the rents that were coming in, we were getting big chunks of rent. He picked a property and he started paying that property off. He just put everything towards that property. And then remembering his goal was to have our home, our primary home, paid off by the time he retired. And he did, and he paid off these other properties. And he would say, hey Stacy, I'm gonna have this duplex paid off in 3 years. He's like, yeah, okay, right. A year later, okay, it'll be paid off in 3 months. It's like, what? So he literally put the money back in and paid off all of the properties. And so, when you look at what we have, and keep in mind, I'm always conservative on values. And so, when you look at market value, where are we?
Millionaires.
We're millionaires in real estate, just by owning properties. Any day now, we could sell everything and go live, because our expenses are very low. You have a workshop, a worksheet we're going to do shortly, because it's time for a break. We could sell everything, or we could sell one or two properties with what just happened in Kansas City with the laws. We're thinking we're getting out of the city, and we'll talk more about that. Or at some point, we could sell one of these properties. Can you imagine selling maybe this one or this one, and just going living somewhere for a year, traveling to the world for a year, just sell the property, and just go do it. Or, one thing that he doesn't like borrowing against the property, so we don't borrow against it, except we do have a line of credit against one, and I'm gonna convince them to put one on another, because I wanna raise our, net worth by $1 million. I wanna do that hopefully in the next 12 months is my goal. And so I'm gonna use the line of credit, which the benefit is that we pay it off. But the risk is that we have a line of credit, we have debt against our property. But we're going to use it, we'll talk about that a little more later. But this is my story in real estate, and it was almost accidental. We didn't know what this number was, because we weren't tracking it until our accountant, we were doing our estate planning, and had to put all of our assets on a worksheet, and then we're calculating and looking, it's like, whoa, I had no idea. It wasn't important to us, but then it is important to know. Any questions or thoughts before we take a break? Questions, feedback?
So why did you not borrow against the property?
My husband hates debt. That's why we didn't borrow against the property. My husband just hates debt. He likes having zeros. He likes having everything paid off and not owing anyone anything. But, like I said, I convinced him we're gonna do it. We did a line of credit about a little house. We're buying it for a family in our school district, a homeless family in our school district. We tried to find a way to find houses for them. We couldn't find anybody to do it, so we bought one. And there is a horror story behind that house. It didn't turn out the way we thought. We still made money on it, but there was a lesson in that. But we did borrow against our line of credit, but we paid it off. Our goal is to pay it off, to not have debt. Because some people use leverage, and a lot of the investors talk about using leverage for your properties and borrowing. We're gonna talk about one of those techniques, but for us, we just rather have something.
Susan Johnson from Platinum Realty. How long, when you bought your first investment property, how long until you paid it off if you didn't take on any debt to buy your second one?
We had debt on all the properties we had started out with debt until we got towards the end, and then we started paying cash for them. And we haven't purchased any, not a lot. We haven't done a lot in the last few years. We just buy them and let them sit and pay themselves off. And so our very first ones we purchased with rehab loans, renovation loans. But as a matter of fact, the very first stuff, our Institute duplex, we assumed that loan. That tells you how long ago it was. We assumed that loan and had those tenants, and then we went out and had renovation loans. And we think renovation loans are great, the construction loans, because it not only gives you money to acquire the property, but it gives you money to fix it up, all in one. You pay it off when the property sells, you pay it off, you're done, you make your little chunk of money on it, and you move on. We'll talk more about renovation loans and construction loans as we go along, but that saved us because it's everything in one loan. We didn't have to go figure out how to do all this stuff. We had checkbook closing, and we wrote checks to our contractors. We talked about earlier, we're doing billionaires look like, and that's it. There's my husband Dwayne. He likes football, so we go to Chiefs. I love the beach, and so we go to the beach. I think, okay, so we're gonna take a break. Can we take a break? Yep. Okay, we're gonna take, I think it's a 10-minute break, and then let's come back and we're gonna kind of dig into numbers. Come back, please come back.
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my goal. That's my goal too. I've been sitting here looking for my first house of the year. And it's either the neighborhood.
A question for you. Will they have this class?
That's a question for.
Okay. Will you guys have this class?
I can find something that was 60,000.
Feel bad. I'm cheap. Finish it.
Shame on you.
Yeah, shame. I'm a little salty about it. And the crazy part, I got my hoodie in the course of my leave.
Okay, there you put that back on.
We get that about one more month. that it's Argentine, Kansas, and they only have 2 branches. They do a purchase and rehab loan or a purchase and hold loan. I wanna reach out to general lenders, because my goal is, I would like to get to a point where if I have one, if I'm working on a property already, they won't give me more than 2 loans at a time. So if I can work on one loan first, and then if something else comes up, I got another lender I can go to, right? So that's my goal. But I wanna get a line of credit, just like what you mentioned, because I think if you use it to your advantage, those are funds.
Amen. Red Friday, I was like, oh, I gotta represent.
I was trying to say if you use it as your advantage.
I thought about that too. I wanna say I should be in professional gear, but it's just Red Friday, I need to support. Which one is more important?
Where you come to professional?
I'm like, oh,
I had to go look at the.
I've never
we're gonna do it.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I do want to be professional, I really do. I try.
Guys, and
I keep
like I told her, there's something I've never done. Played cards and probably through. So I know how to do.
2% is good. I don't want to touch 2%. But I want to invest, but I don't know how. Without.
Properties
And then I need a rehab.
I need to
And so
probably
I'm going to do that with this. Should I just pay out debt? No, she's going to.
And now that I got my license,
And I'm
only had it for like 2 months. I'm learning
How do
to
you
do
do
it.
it?
I'm learning to
You know, I can get some contractors, but I'm
everyday numbers, as well as my investment.
And I used to think, no, I'm not going through these houses with all the, you know, the distressed houses, but I had a buyer who wanted, all she had was 50,000. I'm like, well, we're gonna have to go through some houses. We went through some houses. I'm like, if I can go through that with her, good for me.
I'm the same way.
My problem is money, and how do you do it?
And at this point, I still, I mean, I at some point I looked at 2 doors and saw that, and so I'm down to like 4 doors.
Taking straight up on it.
Yes, and I've got a partner.
Police were smart enough to have people, I've seen people, when I started out working, I used to be very new in the industry, so they started it's 5 members, and it's each one has their players, and I don't want to go out if you're find your name, and what's like, what I'm responsible for, where if I can start getting a foundation to come up with that cash flow outcomes. So we have like, we have machine eyes, why did you don't? You know, it's so big, it's not easy to he's big enough to.
So you wouldn't even have to, no, because it's already there. Go straight on here, pick up where you left off, keep it pushing. Yes.
Yeah, and that's why I learned also not only about your debt.
So are you thinking of investing in that?
So you're building up an individual.
I think that was I think it just recently makes sense. I'm just not being I got one other contract for a hire, it's really a meet and so I'm sitting there. So,
So
4 years ago.
you've been doing this for a while. I just didn't know where to start, so that's good to know. Yeah. I would love to do that. Thank you so much. That's my thing is I just, yeah. You don't know where to start, what to do, how to do it. I just know I want to do it. I just don't know where You're not gonna get nowhere sitting on the sidelines. That's what I have to tell myself. I'm not gonna be no person on the sidelines. Yeah, I think if I can just get that first one, then I'll know. Hopefully a smooth first one, not a rocky, scary one. It would be good. That's why I want to find out what's the first one. Besides saying, yeah, I want to go there. So for you, since you've been doing such an investment, what made you get out there? What made you say, yeah, I'm gonna do this?
Okay, we got about 2 minutes left before we get that started again.
So,
As they're catering to a certain, they're probably trying to protect their partners to, that's kind of what I'm saying. You guys set up doors and businesses, you're not there. You have to be smart enough to
process. I've been doing, this is what I've been talking to. Yes,
And then I've got this.
Did you have to have a lot of people for your first one? Smooth.
Yeah, it was cool.
Another minute, 1 minute. It's not a minute. And for those of you who are online, to find the next worksheet, it's on your, in the email link that you had with the Zoom link. There's gonna be a PDF there. If you can click there, go to the Zoom. If you can click there, find the PDF. So we'll talk about that.
That's something you gotta do every day.
Yes.
Okay, why don't we get started? On the table in front of you, you have a worksheet, and then again, I'll mention for the people on Zoom again, in the email that you got that had the Zoom link, there's an attachment, there's a PDF attachment. For those of you on Zoom, that's where this worksheet is. There are actually 2 of them, but the one you're going to start with, so if you can go there to get it, to get your worksheet, those who are in the room, it's this one's the last one with all the questions, called Stacy's Millionaire Club Retirement Planning Worksheet. The one with 16 questions on it. It's the one that we're going to work on right now as we're speaking together. And I'm not gonna send you home with it because you may not open it up and you may not do it, but I want you to do it while we were here together. So if you look at that sheet, the one retirement planning worksheet, 16 questions, if you can answer the questions. And can you let me know on Zoom if you're able to find it okay?
Yep, we got it as an attachment.
Okay, very good. Okay, good, thank you. And then when you start finishing, let me know once you're, I know somebody here in the classroom is already almost finished with it. Because he started filling it out earlier. You need an extra one? Yes. So as you're finished on Zoom, just kind of give me a heads up, and then we'll move on.
Do we need to fill that out now or at the end of the class?
So I would like you to please do it now, or, yeah.
Okay, well, it's an attachment, so I'm gonna have to print it out.
I understand, or maybe if you just make notes on like another piece of paper, just answering the questions, you may go back to that one later. But just to get the information calculated and out there is my goal while we're together.
Okay, okay.
Because I know what happens when people take stuff home with them, it may not get completed. I'd like us to do that together.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know how to view the download of the worksheet while I'm in the Zoom without leaving the meeting.
Anybody on Zoom have an idea of how she can do that? And then I'm gonna ask Crystal if she can help us with that too.
I just minimize it. Push escape, and that will small the Zoom meeting.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you for helping her. Trying to chase you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm just trying to tell you, we're filling out one of the worksheets.
Stacy, is it possible that the person who talked about their investment group at the office could share a little more information about that, maybe at the end or whenever it's appropriate?
Someone just asked you a question.
Question? Oh, here's a question. I'm
They were
sorry.
talking.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I was getting some ice. Okay, I'm sorry, what was the question? Is there a question on Zoom?
Yeah, they wanted.
Yes, did you hear my question?
I did not. I didn't. I'm
Is
sorry.
it possible that the person who talked about the investment group in their office could share a little more information about how they did that at some point?
He will. If he's, here, yes, he will. And we'll get to that later, but he's agreed to do that, and I think that would be great. So yes, thank you for asking.
Thank you.
I think that is brilliant. All right, well, we're still working on it. So we'll give it maybe a couple more minutes.
Will we get the recording at the end of the class?
Somebody just asked that, and she said that there is, I don't know how you'll get it, but it is being recorded. And so I'll ask Crystal how people will get it.
She said they'll email it.
They'll email it to everybody, because you did ask the question.
Well, she told me she'd email it.
Because you're special, that's why.
Great, thank you.
Okay, did you hear that? Catherine said she'll email the recording, and it may take a couple of days, but you'll get it by next week.
Will it be video or audio?
Thank you.
Will it be video or audio?
I hope you don't have to see all this, so maybe hopefully it's audio. I think it's probably video, Catherine. Crystal, is that right?
Correct, yes, it will be video and audio, yes.
Okay. All right. How are you all doing? Are you getting close to finishing? Is anybody finished? Okay, so a couple more minutes then. How are you doing online? Anybody finished there?
Finish.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe a couple finished in each space. We'll give it a couple more minutes. But some of these do require calculation by hours. Does anybody kind of love doing these questions? Anybody like them? I do too. Because it sometimes forces you to think about stuff you wouldn't think about otherwise.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm not sure if you'll go over this of different ways to leverage capital. I know I've heard that you can actually borrow from your life insurance policies.
I don't know if that's something that you'll touch on or that you know anything about.
I don't, again, I stick to very simple methods, but there are people that you can ask, including the CPAs. And someone asked that online, where to find a CPA. What we suggest, and I'll kind of answer your question while I answer this, because it was in chat, is to ask someone else who has investment properties, who they use for a CPA, and to look at some of the investor groups on Facebook. We're gonna talk about that a little bit, and I'll give you a few of them to get started. There's so many different investor groups out there with people just like us that are sharing referrals, and sharing information. And so borrowing against the insurance policies, those are things that I'm a simple girl from Oklahoma. We are just basic with the way we do real estate. So that's not something I do, but there may be someone else in the room or on Zoom or in some of the investor groups that can speak to you about that particular angle, because there are a lot of different ways you can do it. I acknowledge that. I just have to stay in my lane.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question for you, Stacy.
Sure.
Do you put your properties in your personal names, or do you do it under a company name?
For a long time, we had it in our names, never had any problems with it. And then when we started our estate planning, decided to put them all in our LLC. And we have one LLC, so then the question is, one LLC, or do we do multiples? So that's something we're going to explore later this year. But at this point forward, we're all going to be in an LLC.
Thank you.
Even though we didn't have a problem when we did it in our name only, especially having our insurance on our property protected us a couple of times. Okay. Anybody in the room finished? If you're finished, can you raise your hand? Okay. I can't see everybody on Zoom, but I'm gonna assume that the room is similar to Zoom. One more minute, and then we'll wrap up this page. Everybody have their net worth? Is everybody on number 15 at least? You made it to number 15? Net worth? Is that a yes? Yes. Okay, so why don't we start that? And so any surprises when you fill that out, because this is all stuff, and again, real estate agents, we know all kinds of stuff. I don't think I'm telling you anything new today, maybe presenting stuff in a different way. But looking at this sheet and completing that exercise, have you done something like that before? Have you? Some of you have. Is there anything that was a surprise to you today? Do we have any other network millionaires in the room? One, two. Anybody on Zoom? Network millionaires who were able, on number 15, to have a net worth over $1 million. Anybody on Zoom? Is that, let's see, one, the net, anybody else? I can only see 6 faces on Zoom. So in both groups, in person and online, we have network millionaires amongst us. And back to the question earlier we talked about, we are everywhere, we just don't know it. About our peers, but my goal is that more of us are network millionaires, and by doing something like this, you get to assess where you are and then how to get there, and especially in retirement. So one thing, I'll share this really quickly. My husband and I, we did, anybody know, we talk about Dave Ramsey? Okay, so my husband was kind of living like that before, and so one thing that we did is we did the envelope thing with, budgets. I hate budgets. Who does budgets? I mean, you write it down, really? And so he made it easy for us, and that his budgeting, he has an envelope system. Anybody know the envelope system? Yeah. Where, so what we did is we calculated what our expenses were per month, like what it takes, for groceries and money for him to do what he wants, and for food, and just all of our expenses per month. And we calculated that we need $950 per month just to live. So we go to the bank, we get, at the beginning of the month, we get $950 in cash, we put it in an envelope. That's how we live on the month. That's how we do our budget. We know if it's in the envelope, you have the money for it. If it's not in the envelope, you don't. Now, we do differently, gas at the pump is different, but that's how we do our budget. In the beginning, we did, envelope for him, an envelope for me, but I ended up having to borrow from him all the time. And thankfully he agreed, we have all our stuff in one envelope now, so we'll go get money out of the envelope when we're doing something. So that's our easy way of budgeting, and it makes our lives easier because it forced us to calculate what our monthly expenses were. And on top of that, what we know for retirement purposes is how much does it take to run our house each month and our basic bills. And so we don't have a mortgage, and so we calculated that $1,000 a month is what we need in order to run our household, pay utilities and all of that. Total per month to live, we only need $2,000 a month to live. $24,000 a year, we live a basically good life. That is what we need. And so for retirement, it's easy to understand that. And so when we figure out, so retirement, we want to do some things differently, more travel, because that goes in travel. Travel is so important to me. My real estate income from selling homes, that goes into travel, because it's important to me. That's my quality of life, and that's my contribution to the family. And so anyway, we know that what it takes is the $24,000 a year. How will we get there? And if we want to do a little more travel, how much more do we need to add in? And so that was, for us, the benefit of doing the calculations here, is to know where we are. And so for you, my goal for you is that you know, okay, I need, and when I retire, when it's time to retire, I'm gonna need to earn $3,000 a month. How am I going to get there? And remembering then Linda's story about the 10 properties that rent for $600 each, so that's $6,000 retirement. So that was the purpose of this, is just to have you consciously think about that. Is that exercise helpful? Is it? Okay, I hope so. It's helpful for me. And my husband said, make sure people know about Social Security. In my mind, I don't calculate it. I don't think I'll have anything. I have no expectations of Social Security at all. If we get anything, it's just bonus. But he, like I said, he's retired. We started going to some of these workshops about retirement, and they're talking about it. So you can figure out by going to that website what you will get in retirement when you retire at 62, 65, and it can just be part of the budget, but it is something that may be coming to you that may be important to add to the other things you're going to do. John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest men in the world at one point in America. The major fortunes in America have been made in land. We keep hearing it again and again and again, and we just need to believe it. And so our plan is to lay the groundwork, get our finances in order, get debt-free. That's important to me. For some people, they don't mind debt. Is there anybody that wants to be debt-free? Is that important, or because some people don't? On Zoom, anybody find value in being debt-free?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Well, I learned if there's good debt, there's bad debt.
Okay, you say good debt.
Well, I would say there's acceptable debt and there's bad debt. You don't want anything to be a liability.
Okay.
Right? Like credit cards, like I just got done paying quite a bit down on some credit cards in hopes that it's gonna now be open a door for me to do more real estate wise with investing. So debt on that is bad, but debt on your property is not so bad.
It depends on how you look at it. That's right. My husband would think it's bad. But then we had debt in the beginning, and because we had debt, we were able to buy more, have it paid off. So then it's a balance. But I think the ideal, I know for us, debt-free. The moment we became debt-free, you know, Dave Ramsey has you call in. We didn't do that, to call in and say, we're debt-free. We didn't do that, but being debt-free is very important, and it gives you peace of mind. And then building up your savings and reserves, and we need to create, when we just talked about it, a realistic budget for every day. So our goal is to get debt-free and financially prepared. Dr. Dennis Kimber, we talked about him. He said, frugality is one of the essentials of success. It is the unwritten law of wealth. My husband has never had a car loan in his life. I was like, what? And he just went last week and bought him a truck. And we buy old stuff. We're not buying the 2023, 2024. We just don't, we don't need it, don't want it, we're not paying for it. But he's, how do I say it? Cheap? Okay, I'll just put it there.
He doesn't have to be showy and flashy.
Yes, that's right. And so we live like a good life, but it is simple. What'd you say? Live within your means, under our means. That's right, under our means. And so many people have it, they spend every penny that they have. And we talk about this, you know who this is? Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey, and we know that he has the book, The Total Money Makeover. His goal is for people to live debt-free. And you know, it's something that's interesting to me. I see a lot of investor types talking about him, like Grant Cardone. Anybody hear Grant Cardone? He doesn't agree with being debt-free, or they have a problem sometimes with Dave Ramsey wanting us to be debt-free, which doesn't make sense. And he has Financial Peace University classes. You can find those in churches around the city, or you can attend the classes where they walk you through and hold your hand as you become debt-free. He has what he calls a debt snowball. You start paying off your smallest debt first. You put everything, just like my husband did with the property, you pay it off. And then the goal, and not calculating what has the highest interest rate, none of that. Take the smallest debt and throw everything at it, pay it off. And his goal, his thought behind that is you have a success. Then you've done that, and so you're motivated to move on to the next one. So you do the small ones and get them out of the way. And he's also on the radio every day. And he's also on, you can find him on YouTube. And so he's just great to listen to. And on YouTube, you'll see people calling in, telling their stories, and that's just, just motivational and helpful too. And so 2 options in buying real estate. You can fix and flip, which you talked about, or you can buy and hold. And most of the people I think in the room have decided they buy and hold. Are there any flippers here? Okay, so what do you prefer, flipping or buying and holding? And for the flippers, why? Okay, both. And what do you?
I started with the fix and flip, and I think more so, I think it's an opportunity for, to build your working funds, because it may be, it's a quick fix, but yes, you will get taxed more, probably at least 30%, right? Where your buy and hold is, it's all considered now an asset, so you have a lot of write-offs, and it balances out. But if you don't feel like you have the funds to get into a buy and hold, which is, unless you're gonna buy something distressed, renovate it, build equity into it, and then you can refinance it based on the equity you got in it, and sometimes not have to put any money down, which is how you can turn a fix and flip into a buy and hold. But if you go straight to a turnkey, which I've never done yet, because I'm just not experienced enough in it yet, I think I still have to have at least 20 to 25% to put down on a turnkey. Well, that's 25 to 30 or maybe $40,000 or $50,000. I don't have that sitting around. I could put 15 down on that. So it depends on where you are, I guess, financially.
Okay, you had something in you?
Yeah, I think your fix and flips really tie up cash flow. And so that's been my experience. And so what I want to get into the buy and hold where you have cash flow coming in that is better than what's going out. Fix and flip, you got a big payout at the end once you close on it. But prior to that, you're paying contractors, you're paying a lot of different things, and so it ties up money that you don't really have access to.
Okay, and we were talking about like that money that you get out of it, how to keep from being taxed on that. Have you heard of 1031 exchange?
What was that?
Yeah. You had something you were gonna say about buying and holding?
No, I do both.
You do both? Do you have a preference?
I love the flip.
You like the fix and
I
flip?
love the flip,
Why?
but the rentals allow me to do the flips.
So they help you fund the flips, okay, very good. And then sometimes using the equity in what we're holding. Anybody online want to share if you have a preference, especially for fix and flip? Can you speak to that? Anybody?
I don't know that we've done a whole lot of that. Mostly I feel like we've been fortunate to pick up rental properties that had tenants. And then when their lease was up and they left, we were able to rehab. And by the time we wanted to rent it again, we were able to get a lot more rent. Plus we had the equity in the property. So it kind of put us in a good spot for that aspect. But we're rehabbing one and we're getting ready to sell it. So I guess we'll see how that plays out.
Right. And so thank you all for sharing. My husband and I in the beginning, we had rentals and then we did the fix and flips. I'll tell you one thing. When you don't have a plan for it, like we would buy something and we'd make 20, 30,000 on it, and we'd spend it. Because we weren't thinking about it. We were younger, we didn't think about it. Now we're at a different stage where we're more deliberate about it. But there are opportunities to make a lot of money in the fix and flips, and then the 1031 exchange is a way to roll your money in without being taxed on it when you buy another property. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But just to know that these are a couple of the options that you have, and what is your personality and what is your risk level, and to be deliberate about that. So the question is money. It's always about money. How are you going to pay for it? Traditional mortgages, FHA, conventional, and VA. Hard money loans. Anybody used any of those?
I have. I would stay away from them as much as I can.
You try to stay away. They scare me.
Their rates are just so freaking high and I've learned that I think I would much rather find someone locally that I can talk to you face to face than someone who tries to be this nationwide lender.
So a local lender is better than.
I worked with this one last year, 2 years ago, and their packet was so thick on their contract that the title company wouldn't even deal
there's a place for those, for people who couldn't necessarily get the other types or who prefer hard money loans. So anybody else who uses them, will you share your thoughts about why you use hard money loans? And those are non-traditional lenders.
A lot of times the house doesn't qualify for the loan. And so if it's a fixer-upper, you can't get a traditional loan.
Okay, and so you have to look for hard money lender, where your rates may be higher, but it's the cost of doing business you build in, the higher rates, and just know that you're going to be able to get the money that you need. Go get it paid off, and then move on to the next one, just use it, but be very careful with the hard money loans. And then private lenders, and some of the investment groups, you're gonna find some people who will lend money to their peers, the private lenders in those investment groups, who will, just choose, that's how they make their money. And so you're gonna find those, and then asking for referrals, and then you'll enter into some partnerships, like you're in your office doing, seller financing. You can't find your traditional, some sellers will carry back a note for you. And then we talked about the line of credit, getting a line of credit against the property to use to buy the properties and to renovate the properties. And that made our lives easier. On the last one that we did, is that we just had like I think on our current home, we had like $100,000 line of credit. We bought a little house for 20-something thousand. We put whatever we put 20, 30 into it, and then we ended up selling it. But it made it easy for us because we didn't have to get any appraisals, nothing. The money is sitting there, it's like having cash, and our bank literally will give you a checkbook. And so when you're going to use and advance your line of credit, if I have a contractor, I'm writing him a check. He doesn't know anything about where it's coming from, and it looks like cash. We made an offer on a property, it's a cash offer. Because we're not having to do all the appraisals and your loan contingencies. I think the line of credit, if you have equity in your home or one of your properties, is probably one of the cleanest, easiest ways to go. But remember, you're putting your property in jeopardy. If you don't make the payments, you could lose the property. And so that's the risk, you just have to be careful about that. But a line of credit is clean, simple, easy. You write the check, get it, you pay it off, you do it again and again and again. And so that, to me, is one of the simplest ways outside of cash. Which is next. Cash is easier. We had one little property, we had a duplex, we had a block where we had 4 duplexes, and my husband would cut the grass. We didn't want to leave it to the tenants to cut the grass, so we cut the grass. And there was a guy who owned a duplex next to one of ours. He approached my husband one day. He said, I've seen you working, I like your work ethic or whatever. I'm gonna sell this duplex to you for $15,000. And it was a duplex that we just sold 2 years ago for $140 or $145. And he sold it to him for $15 because he just watched my husband take care of the property. So we paid cash for that one. And we actually paid only about $13 for it because we negotiated a little bit. But we paid cash for that one. And so more often than not, we're watching where we are. And the one thing that we like, we talk about the rehab, renovation, and construction loan, that was the next best thing for us when we needed to fix up the property. You use your construction loan to buy it, then to do the work to fix it up. And then when it's sold, you either, or you're done with it, if you're holding it, then you change it into, refinance into like a long-term loan, or you just pay it off. And so the beauty of that is the properties needed work. You got your work built in, but you have to do some work in advance. You have to say, here's what I paid for the property, here's what it's going to be worth after the work is done. And you're gonna have to work out your details about what the actual costs are for the lender. And then bank loan or signature loan. If you have smaller properties that you're buying, maybe it looks your bank, it is a simple loan. Investors, what am I missing? Is there anything else I'm missing on here, other ways to pay for properties that people can explore? Anybody on Zoom? Anybody on Zoom? Huh?
Gap funding.
Some gap funding from a lender, that's a thought too, yes. And then you talk to your lender, you find your lender. We had a lender that we always worked with when we did our rehab loans, and we find a property, we're already pre-approved, everything, he had everything he needed from us, so when it's time to go back to the next one, it's like, okay, Andy, we found another one, send me the contract. We didn't have to go through getting approved every time. You build a relationship with your bank or with your lenders, so they know you and know how you work.
The rehab loan, are you referring to like a 2 or 3K?
We don't do those, that's one of the, that's like an FHA.
Right.
We're doing the easier, simpler, cleaner ones that you can get like at a regular bank. And one of the banks that we use now, we haven't used them for a rehab loan, but we use them for our line of credit, is Argentine Bank.
Yep.
You like them too?
Yep.
Anybody else use Argentine Bank? We like them for investors.
Argentine Federal, they have a branch in Oval Park, and they have a branch in Kansas City, Kansas. And Kendra Deal is the loan officer there. And she's very, very easy, very, very helpful, very relaxed. And I've done three flips with them, and you only have to put down, I think it's 15% at closing.
And then keeping in mind with the money you put down, when you're structuring these deals, talk to your CPA, what is the best way to structure these deals when you're working with your banks? Because the lender, back to your point there, the lender, your CPA may have certain ways for you to structure some of these loans or the way you do your business. So always talk to your CPA for advice before you do anything. House hacking, who said that? Somebody in here. That was you. Talk about your house hacking experience.
Yeah, go to FHA, so only 3.5% down, owner occupied, so only have to live in it for 1 year.
And that's your duplex, you purchased a duplex. Can you all hear him okay on Zoom?
That's good.
Did you all hear, what's your name?
Paul.
Did you hear Paul just now?
Yes.
Okay, very good, okay. Okay, so you had an FHA loan, 3.5% down, you live in one half of the duplex, renting it out. After a year, what are you going to do?
Yeah, after my year's almost up, so just moving out, renting out the other side.
And then
Fannie Mae actually came out with the 5% down on multifamily, 2 to 4 units for under occupied, so it's probably my next move.
And that just happened, that was in the last few months.
Yeah.
And so that is an option. And so some people, where do you start? If you could start with the duplex and help get your mortgage paid by the other side, that's great. House sharing, anybody heard of house sharing? So for example, in the city of Kansas City, Missouri, you can have up to 5 unrelated people living in a house at a time, and it's legal. Shawnee, Kansas doesn't like house sharing, that was in the news sometime last year. And so they do not want that, but in Kansas City, you have to check the rules in your place. In Kansas City, you can do that. So for example, across the street from me, they kind of cheated, they have like 7 bedrooms in the house, but they rent the rooms out for like $400 a month. If you have 7 bedrooms, $400 a month, and it's a normal neighborhood, just a room, and the house only has like 3 bathrooms, so they're sharing bathrooms, they're sharing kitchens. But that's another way, if you own a home, you open up your rooms to share, or purchase a home with that in mind. It's another way of doing it. And then the multifamily, buying 5 units, and then like you said, there, I think it's on here, new ways of paying for, new 5% down, conventional financing to get into it, you're not paying 15-20% down. And so the FHA, one loan at a time, that's one of the drawbacks there in the beginning. Conventional, you can have multiple loans, is it up to 10 loans, is that right, for conventional loans? The banks won't let you have too many, but you have multiples in private money and hard money lenders, and then line of credit, and then the duplex, 5% down multifamily plus. So we talked about all of these, how the house hack. Anybody heard of BRRRRRR? Yes. In investor circles, and so Bigger Pockets talks about it. You buy, you rehab, rent, refinance. Bye, see you later.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then refinance and then repeat. And so this is what some investors, they build their business on doing this. Anybody do this? That's the goal? That's the goal. Okay, so this is what they do constantly. So Bigger Pockets is another resource to look at. But when you hear BRRR, that's what they're talking about. And so here's what one of our homes, I talked about this before, 72,000 we paid for, now we're 500. We may get a line of credit, maybe somewhere around 4, or someone to go to Kendra and see what she'll give us. And then we're gonna buy some things. And we also have a line of credit on our home worth 100. And so I want my money lined up before I start looking for deals, because the worst thing that can happen is you find a deal and not have your money ready. That is the worst thing. So we're gonna make sure all of our money is lined up first. And then how do you price your rentals? Somebody has something?
I had a question about the line of credit.
Yes.
Is the line of credit based on just one asset, or can you combine them?
It depends on the lender. Because, and some of them will require you, it must be on your own personal property, they'll only give you a line of credit on that. But, Argentina will give us one on an investment property. And we had somebody else that said they'll only do it on ours. And so when it's time to price your rental, it's just like in MLS when you're doing a market analysis, you have to look around and see what the rents are. What are people paying for rents in other places? And so that way you do it. And keeping in mind too, and Zillow's probably one of the best, even though we kind of don't like them a whole lot. But for the rental space, I think they're great. And then Trulia and all those others. But these are some that will help you determine how to price. Give you a market analysis, determine what other things are renting for before you purchase the property. You need to know what you're going to be able to rent it for. And there may be other things out there. You talk to property managers and talk to other agents and go into some of these investment groups to find out, but that's just a good place to get started. How do you protect your equity when it's time to sell? We talked about this, 1031 exchanges. Anybody do a 1031 exchange recently?
Working on one.
You're working on one. Tell us a little bit about the 1031 exchange and why you're using it. And what
You
it
don't
is.
have to pay the tax.
Right, with your equity, you pull out of the property.
When selling land or buying land.
Okay. And You have to buy, it's a like-kind
It
exchange.
has to be the like.
So from
And
rental
I have
property to rental.
45 days to determine which piece of land I'm gonna buy.
And so the thing, and you said you've done a 1031 exchange, any experience you'd like to share about why you did it?
2 to 5 years, I think is what it is, like you have to, like if it's your primary goal and you're setting it, if it's within, if you look back on the same date.
Oh, that's your capital, save capital
It's
gain.
save capital, so when you cross that, this is your alternative option for you to avoid the capital gain tax and then defer it. It's not completely gone, it's deferred to the future, right? So like kind properties, rental to rental, doesn't have to be single family to single family, you can do single to multi to single.
Or land, or something, all of that.
All of that.
So very flexible.
So all of that is available, yeah. So the main thing is you don't touch the proceeds, net proceeds in your name. You have a third party
Intermediary.
to hold that funds, so you can go and purchase the other property, the exchange property.
That's the same.
There's a 45-day identification and for ADAs, that gets very complicated.
Or is it complicated or is it simple? Yeah,
Some, depends on how you look at it. Sometimes, you may identify a property and there are 3 properties that you can identify as one of the choices. And if you did, and in the competitive market, if you lose all 3 properties and you lost that 45-day window.
And taxes.
You're paying taxes.
That's exactly right. That's right.
So
Okay, so
that could get a little stressful depending on the market.
I agree. That is stressful because you have to meet those deadlines. Anybody on Zoom want to talk about a 1031 exchange? Has anyone on Zoom done a 1031 exchange recently? Did you want to share?
Can the first lady repeat what her experience was?
I'm working on one right now.
The one he's working on, she's working on one now?
Land and land.
And it was a positive experience?
Well, it will be.
Oh, so far, this is the first one. She said it will be, better be. She's working on one right now.
Yeah.
And so you've done one before,
I've done one before.
and somebody else has done one? And so I'll share, did you do one?
Yes.
You wanna share anything?
We ended up cashing out on ours because we actually made a little bit, so, but it was a single family home, and we ended up just cashing out. We were gonna try to find a like-minded one, but we couldn't find one, so that's what we ended up doing.
And so that's the challenge and that's the stress. So what we did, my husband and I mentioned to you because of some of the laws that went into place in the city of Kansas City, Missouri, made us mad. We said we're getting out of this marketplace, we wanted to sell. And so we sold, some duplexes or fourplex, or whatever it was 13 units. We sold those units, and the money that we were going to make from that, I think those were represents maybe almost $700,000 or so. We didn't want to pull that money out and be taxed on it. So we chose to do a 1031 exchange and roll all of that into the properties that we bought in Branson. So we bought the condos in Branson for cash, using the proceeds from the money that we sold here, and didn't pay a single penny of taxes on it. And we also didn't get to touch it. We didn't need to have it. It went right into there. And like you said, it's deferred. It's not, you're not saving the taxes. So if I go and sell them, they're gonna recapture the savings. So it's deferred. But our goal is to hold on to them for a long time, so we shouldn't have anything to worry about. The challenges and then the stress comes in. You have 45 days to identify the property that you're going to replace it with. Has to be kind of a similar property, a rental for rental. So you have 45 days, and you will give them up front, here are 3 addresses, and there are ways, I think, to extend it to add more addresses. Here are the 3 addresses, I'm going to buy one of these properties. So you get your 45 days, you give them those addresses of one of them you're going to buy, and then you must close on whatever properties you buy in 180 days. So you have a little time to do what you need to do. And so what we did is we sold most of ours first. We went to Branson to make sure we could find what we're looking for there. Before we got into that market, we'll be able to find something for the price range we're looking in. And we said, yes, we feel relatively confident. Put ours on the market here. Some of them didn't go on the market, we sold offline to other investors. Put them on the market, and sold them, and then the clock starts ticking the day that you sell, and then you must identify your properties and get it to that 3rd person. And we worked through a title company, worked with the 3rd person, say, here are the properties that we're gonna buy one of these. And then at the end of our 180 days, we closed on it. So that gave us time to negotiate when we went to Branson. Yes.
So when you're doing the exchange, it obviously has to be a like property.
A rental. A
Just
rental for a rental.
Okay, so I mean, for example, if you're selling one, but with the proceeds, you can purchase 2 properties.
Yeah.
That's still likewise. It doesn't have to be a property that's 1,500 square foot for another property that's 1,500
No,
square
it's the
foot.
rental, the light kind, how you use it.
Gotcha.
And so I think at the end, we ended up, not being able to use 8,000 of the dollars, so we paid taxes on 8,000, but we used all the rest of it up in our rentals there, and it was absolutely great. We were able to be cash buyers in that market, and no stress there.
I heard a story about someone that was trying to do a 1031 exchange, ran out of their 180 days, and like 2 days before, they just bought into a syndicate, a real estate syndication, and they said it was liquid enough that 3 months later, they found a property and sold out of the syndication and saved their taxes.
Because there are other options.
Yeah,
And so-
the syndication was ready, yeah,
And
here
so,
you go.
and the expert to talk to is your CPA. If you wanna do a 1031 exchange, you talk to the CPA, say, how do I do it, how do I need to structure it? I'll tell you one thing, when we did it, the cost of preparing our taxes went up, because they have a little more work to do. But talk to your CPA about that, and then your title company, and then other people who've done 1031 exchanges for that intermediary who gets the job done. So that is something that, is a benefit of reinvesting. Mortgage loans, we talked about that, we talked about this a couple of times, live in the house for 2 years, then you sell it, and you're not taxed on your gains on it, because you've been there 2 of the last 5 years. Let's hope that doesn't change, so you need to keep your eye on the laws coming out of the country. And Dave, I was gonna play this video, but we'll come back to, I mean, I don't think we have time, so we're not gonna play this, you should always find him online. I'm gonna keep going past that. And I want you to, those people, I want you to Google them and to look, I'm on YouTube, listen to Dave Ramsey, Dennis Kimbrough, and then all of those other experts, just look and learn. Where to start, choose a few neighborhoods that you like, because you need to find something that you're comfortable with, the area, and that, with us, we pick things like within a 15-minute radius of our home, because my husband would go take care of some of the properties, and we need to get something to be close by where we can get to it quickly. And we chose the general price ranges, so when we did, rentals before the city made us mad, yes, I'm gonna keep saying that, our average rent range was $600 a month, our average rent amount. We chose to be in the affordable marketplace, no more, because we're not doing that anymore. But we chose the range we wanted, we were affordable homes, as what our focus was. So we kept that in mind when we decided what our purchase price was going to be and what our end cost would be. Then you need to research, preview, study, track the sales and the neighborhood developments and the areas you're going into. You need to be the expert in those areas. You need to know them inside out. If there's some development that's coming in that's going to cause the values to drop, you need to know that. So you need to specialize in the neighborhoods that you choose to start. Where will you find properties? MLS, of course, but everybody else is in MLS. The investor groups, sometimes they'll have them, and sometimes the wholesalers will be in the investor groups talking about them. Driving for dollars, how many people do this? That's what we do. My husband and I found our home, it was sitting vacant, we were driving around looking for empty homes. We found ours and it was interesting in a nice area, and we jumped on the internet, called the owner, found him in Lebanon, Missouri, and said, are you thinking about selling? And that particular day, he said yes. We learned from neighbors that others had asked him, didn't work, so we called. And so doing that research, getting out, driving neighborhoods that you like, and finding abandoned homes, looking up the owners and calling them. And I don't know if a lot of investors still do that, but that is an easy way to identify. And then you pick the neighborhoods you want to be in. Auction companies, we see them online. Tax foreclosure sales, the property tax sales. We, in Kansas City, in Jackson County, they're in August of each year. People who didn't pay their property taxes for 3 years, they will sell their properties for back taxes. We bought one that way. It was kind of accidental. When you bid on them, it's kind of final. And we made a bid on a particular property, and when we got back, you walk up, you make the bid, you win, you go, you pay for it, cash or however, and we got back, it's like, oh, we bid on the wrong property. And so, I mean, it's gonna be so careful. We got in our car, we drove to the property, and thank goodness it was okay. So just be and you have to do your homework in advance on those tax force sales, because some of the liens are carried with those properties, and so this very, you have to be very specialized in doing those. Mortgage foreclosure sales, cold calls and letters we all get all the time. And I'm thinking if people are still doing them, it must work. Tips from others in the business, we have a mailman that would tell us when properties were vacant, real estate attorneys, neighbors, and friends. If you tell people I'm looking for something, let me know if you see a vacant property, that could work. Bank managers, one of the properties that we found, I was calling the banks. I said, do you have any properties, any REOs? Do you have any properties that are foreclosures? And that particular day, she said, yes, we do. And it was right off of 74th and Main, so nice area. It was selling for $50,000. Somebody else had gotten there. We paid $55,000 and we got it. That's one I wish we would have kept. So some of our properties we buy, it's like, and we flipped them, we should have kept them. We rented it for a year, but if we would have held on to that, it's worth so much more now. So you can call banks to ask what they have, public records in the newspaper, the big county, they have the publicized when they have mortgage foreclosures and tax foreclosures. Wholesalers, I don't like wholesalers too much, but they're out there. Those are people that will, they won't buy the property, but they'll identify a person selling the property and then sell you their contract. Don't like it, don't like it, don't like it. There's too much room for error and ethical issues, but it is legitimate. There's some good wholesalers out there, I just don't care for that for me. Yes?
I'm not asking a question.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. And then realtors. How many of you as realtors use RPR? Do you know what that is? Anybody online use RPR? Anybody on Zoom?
Yeah.
Some of you do. Okay, this
Yes.
is very good. And this is something that we pay for with our dues. This is a database that's available to us. And so those of you who use it, do you use it in your investment business?
I haven't learned how to use it yet.
I have an idea for you. And they have tons of
They say
videos.
it's nationwide, right?
It is nationwide, so you can search any property, it's like a nationwide database of properties, and you get all the information you need on any property anywhere in our country. And so to log into it, you need your NERDS number, they changed the name of it through NAR, whatever that number is. And then they have training webinars on the website that'll teach you how to use it. So if there's something you need to learn, you can do live training, or you can go back and look at some of the videos. Let me show you this, because we're always talking about how do you find the properties. Everybody's chasing the same properties. Here's how you can find properties nobody else is chasing necessarily. So on the site, and you go and look for the research button, but this tells you right here, they're gonna get you mailing labels. You're gonna have mailing labels at the end of this search. And so you go under the research button, and so I did a search here, and it's almost like MLS. And then keep in mind that this is where the filters here are where you're gonna be able to open up all of this. So in my search, I wanted to look at 64112, which is the plaza. I wanted to find out what properties are available there. I wanted to use the public records. I could find properties for sale or for lease. You can also find properties that are vacant. I wanted single family homes that someone paid less than $100,000 for, 2 to 4 bedrooms, again, single family. But look at the dates. I wanted somebody who's been in the home for a long time. And so I wanted to see who's owned their home, who bought it between January 1st, 1960 through 2000. So these are the people who I'm targeting have owned the homes for over 23 years. So what does that mean? They may want to sell. And equity, they've been there for a long time, and it may be time to turn over. So I want to know all of those people who have those homes, 2 bedrooms, under 100,000. And then remember this, when you get on there, when you start looking around, remember that filter's right there. And so that search, 64112, public records, found 76 properties. It's gonna give me a map, so you see Brush Creek, so you see the plaza, and you see these over West Plaza area. And I said, okay, let me look at this one for 59 that's on Fairmont Street, right there. So I pulled that one up, and so again, this is the map, the search, and here's that property. It'll give you everything you need to know about the property. So Carol purchased this home back in 1990, on June 19th, 1990. She paid $59,000 for it. And the value could be, we always have to double check this, somewhere around this. There's the house. And so if I wanted to approach Carol or any of the other 76 by sending them something, calling them, knocking on the door, leaving something at the door, I have all the information that I need. I can do all of my research from this site. And so again, here's the map. It gives me an area, and those are the fields. Guys, there's some wonderful reports here, and you can do reports to create CMAs and to do all kinds of things. You can search for things in flood zones. Wonderful things. We pay for it. It's ours. We need to use it and get around and play on it. And so, in the end, I said, give me the mailing list, the mailing labels for all of those people in that area. All I have to do is print it out and mail it. Mail them a postcard or whatever I need to have. So this gives you instant access to something that everybody's looking for. And you can search. You want someone who you want to find properties that the owner doesn't live in, that may be rented. You can go and identify properties that are rented. You can send the owner a letter in Washington or California, say, are you interested in selling this particular property? And remember, you can do the search and determine how long they've been in the property, or whatever. Is that like wonderful?
Yeah, awesome.
And not only for us as investors, but think about our clients. When you have a client looking for something that's just not on the market and there's nothing in the area, we have a way of finding something for them that no one else knows about. So that hidden market. So that's something that I think is just the most wonderful thing ever, and they make it easy for us. We just need to use it. We're already paying for it. And so you found the property. Now what do you need to do? We need to identify the deal, and we need to what do we need to talk here? So we need to analyze the property. We've talked about a lot of this before, and remembering, you're real estate agents, we know this stuff. And so none of this is really new to you, we're just framing it in a different way. We review the property with a contractor. In the beginning, my husband and I would take contractors with us, and then after a while, we just know what it's gonna cost to do certain things. And we're going to estimate our renovation before we make the offer, to make sure the numbers work.
Stacy?
Yes?
Susan Johnson with Platinum.
Hey there.
I'm not an investor yet. In real estate, one of the biggest hurdles I've had is getting contractors for things. How do you get somebody, unless you're actually setting up your investment group with a contractor as part of the LLC, how do you even, when you look at a house that's a dumpster fire, I'm not a contractor.
Luck. It's just luck of the draw. You'll have a contractor that's good on one project and not on another. What we've done a couple of times, so we have a contractor now that is great until he's not going to be. I mean, that's just part of the game. If you find a contractor, you hold on to him. And now what we're saying is we need to find something while he's still good. We need to find our property that we're gonna buy while we have him. Going into some of the investor groups and asking investors, who are you using now? Asking the agents in your office. In our office, I'm in Reese Nichols' Plaza office, we'll send out a notice to other agents, hey, who do you have or who do you like for roofs? Who does windows or cleaning? And so it's going to be a matter of getting a referral from one of your peers. It's gonna be the best thing. And a recent referral, because remember, somebody's good on the last project, may not be good this time. And then you need to build out our calendar and timeline. You need to be very deliberate about, after you get all your budget, your renovation, because that's gonna help you build your budget. Your actual budget for the project. And if you think you're gonna close like in 2 months, double it. The contractors, just always prepare for the worst. The contractors hardly ever finish on time when they say, so always expect that it's going to go later and prepare that. And your holding costs are going to be your utilities in the property and any mortgage payments or interest payments that you're going to have. All of those things you need to keep in mind, and insurance on the property. You must insure your properties. And a lot of lenders, insurance companies will have vacant property rates. So you get a vacant property policy. And then throughout the whole process, you need to keep communicating with your lender, and in the beginning with your CPA to make sure that they're okay with the way you're structuring your deal. And then companies, like I mentioned my company, some companies when you're doing your business, if you're going through your company, and some of them we will go through our company instead of doing them offline, may offer discounts. They may offer you a discount commission if you list a property and sell it, or some of the fees may waive, like some of our fees that they have, they may waive them if you're buying investment properties, because a lot of companies want us to own investments. And so with the rentals, determine your cost, what it's gonna cost to turn over the unit after each tenant leaves, and this is going to be a fixed cost. You always have to paint, do your flooring and cleaning. And then sometimes you simplify your process, like we have a certain paint color that we always like, and flooring, light fixtures, and all of those things that we always try to keep standard. And then find a reliable contractor, of course, and then anticipate when you buy the property when you're going to need the new hot water heater in the roof. Because it may be okay for now, but you need to prepare if it's gonna need to be done in 5 years. Just prepare for it now so there are no surprises. And then you make those projections when you first view the property, so there are no surprises. I think we've been fairly lucky on all the ones we had. We do, in the beginning, we didn't do inspections unless we had concerns, but we will do inspections on the properties. Because otherwise we're buying them as is, and we're willing to, say we're gonna need to do everything on the property, but we wanna do inspections just to make sure there are no surprises. This is a person I found on LinkedIn that talked about how he analyzed his deal. He projects his rent amounts below comp, so he's very conservative on rent amounts, which is how we are too. He doesn't guess on insurance and taxes. So when we find a property we're gonna make an offer on, I wanna know exactly what the insurance is going to be. So we call our insurance agent, get a quote, and the taxes. And right now we're going through reassessment. If you're buying in Jackson County, I guess anywhere, make sure you know what the taxes are going to be. Because the taxes, you have to look at them, because there's some people who, someone just talked to me the other day. They're selling, a real estate agent is selling one of their clients' homes because of the property tax issue, their mortgage payment is going up $400 a month. And so that person is selling those homes. So you need to make sure for your buyer's sake that you know what the taxes, and as a buyer, what your property taxes are going to be. Are they going to the pill? What is the final tax amount? And then figuring out what your rent growth is going to be, and then what your operating projections are. Maybe checking with the property management company, even if you're going to manage it yourself, to run it by the experts who do this every day, saying, can you analyze this deal for me? Under promise, over deliver. And this is when they will make this to the pitch to their investors, and just some good stuff to keep in mind. the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing, Walt Disney said. And so there's no reason to wait. We know about making the offer, that's something we already know. One of the last things I'll talk about, and then we're gonna come back to the person with the, office, with the, investment group in their office. Operate from a wealth mindset, we talked about that. How do you protect what you have? So a few years ago, we finally got around to doing our estate planning. So my husband and I, sat down with an estate planner that was referred to us, and we have this black binder now that has everything. It has a will for us, it has our healthcare directives in it, it has our trust, we have everything in a trust, so it's all under one umbrella. We have our LLCs under there, and we have picked, when we are gone, a niece and a nephew from each side of the family that will be our executors or our estate, that will step in and run our trust for us, and will take care of our other nieces and nephews. We told them, here's what we want to leave for each of these nieces and nephews, here's how we want it structured, and they will carry out our wishes. And so we've taken care of that early, and we picked them to manage it for us, and so they know that, and they know where the book is. Every time we leave town, I take that book out and I put it on top of my desk, so if something happens, they can find it. Is that crazy and perverse? But, I mean, but how many times have we had somebody that dies and you don't know where to look for anything? And so we have that, and in that book, in the estate planning, they are, they tell us, you know, you have the worksheet where you put, who do you want jewelry to go to, the cars, the bank account, your passwords for your social media account is right there, because how many times when people pass away, you can't get in to either close it down or change it, all of that, so they've thought of everything. And something else I just wanna say, the beneficiary deed, that's something that's important for our clients and for us. If you buy a property and you die and you don't have anyone pay that property, what happens to it? It's, what do you say? Probate, or it just sits there. There are places in our city where the properties just sit because no one owns it, no one's taking care of it, moved away. A simple thing for your clients or you, if you're not doing all of this other stuff, is simply having the title company provide a beneficiary deed and say, when I die, this property goes to this person. Save the time. And if you're gonna put it in a trust, we don't go through probate and trust because no one knows that we're dead. My nieces and nephews step in and their rent money comes to them, and they make whatever payments and take care of everything. They just step in our place in the trust, and there is no probate. The trust protects you because the trust is the entity, not Stacy and Dwayne, but it'll be DeMarco and Tara. They just step in the place of the trust, and the trust continues. No probate, no anything complicated. And so that's what I would suggest. And of course, always keeping your properties preserved, because if you have a bad roof, it's gonna impact the value. If you don't take care of the roof leak, and then the proper insurance for your properties. So network, social media group, agent referrals, lender referrals, wealth and investment clubs. Let's hear about that before we leave. The investment clubs that you have in your office that you set up. Somebody on Zoom asked if you could share information about how you do that.
Yeah, so I'm not 100% expert on it, so I'm kind of like one of those people, I surround myself with smarter people, right? And so my team lead is, I consider him as an intelligent guy, but what he's done is he formed an investment group in the office of like-minded agents who want to, build wealth towards retirement or create generational wealth. So essentially, an LLC was created with 5 members in it. And
so 5 agents that we're gonna work together.
Yes, 5.
Create an LLC.
That's correct, so each one kind of has a position, president, vice president, treasurer. And what it does, for us, I think the conventional loan for a investment property was about 25%. So as opposed to one person coming up with that entire 25% down, so the example I'll give is a $100,000 property, $25,000 down. For one person, that's a big chunk of cash. So if you have 5 people in the group, each person essentially is coming up with $5,000. And so we use our real estate sales and business to kind of finance, the purchase of a property. So for that example, it might be one closing, and everybody has $5,000, another $25,000 to put towards the purchase of another property. And so then we have, a property management company that manages the properties for us. So they screen the tenants, they take care of the repairs, things of that nature. So, we kind of just watch the data and watch the cash flow on the properties, and then, he's somewhat of a savvy investor, so sometimes, we'll all agree upon using some of that cash flow to maybe put towards other investments, or, again, the purchase of another property. So to start off, we all kind of, we identified a property, we each came up with our initial money down with some additional, seed money to cover upfront costs, and kind of went at it in that manner.
And so that is something that anyone can do in their offices right now.
Yes.
And so that is wonderful. My only partner is my husband, because I'm not putting money with anybody else that that could be complicated for us, but if it works, it works. If you have agreements in place, then that is a great thing. What our company, what Reese Nichols does is that we have an investment club, or we have our wealth investment meetings, and we started doing this last year. And all we do is we gather like this, we have speakers come, we had someone come in and talk about how to structure the lawyers, how to structure things. We had someone come in and talk about hard money or the different types of loans. And so it's more educational, and we're just there to encourage each other. And one thing that I did at one of the times that I talked to them, I told people, just go do it. Just go buy a property. We know real estate, go buy a property. The next time we met, and 2 people say I went and bought a property. Because we know real estate. Who else but us? We know that the first step, you go get approved for your loan, get the financing in order, we know where to go and what to do. We talked about it today, and you know that anyway. Get your loan, get your financing in order, then go find a property and buy it. Right? I mean, right? And so how many of you, and I'm gonna zip through all these because we're at the end. Well, I do want you to use this is another resource from the Mid-America Regional Council. They have a study on there, who's buying some of the properties in our area, and there are there's some data on this website that you can use for research and markets and things along those lines. And so I think the Mid-America Regional Council, and it's in our region, the cities around our region, Napoleon Hill, knowledge is only potential power, becomes power if and when it's organized into definite plans of action and directed in definite hands. So that's my goal for you today. And you have this sheet with you that you'll take with you, and then answer the questions, your current situation, when are you going to retire? Here are the people you need on your team. We talked about it, the loan officer, the investor groups, the title company, insurance agent. That's all on here, who you need for your team. Check the box once you have accomplished these particular tasks, and a name of an estate planner, or attorney, CPA, get all of this together in one place and just start buying your properties. I mean, it's literally that simple. Am I missing anything, other investors? And we can't talk about this. And always check the local and state ordinances in the city you're going to be in. Like Kansas City yesterday became a place where I will never buy another buy and hold. I will not buy another rental in the city of Kansas City based on what they did yesterday. I'll tell you briefly what it is. They will force you, it's called the source of income law, and they're going to, it's right here. So these are all the laws coming down. This one, they're going to force you to take a Section 8 voucher whether you choose to or not. And we know that is still with the federal government. We're not rejecting the voucher because of the voucher holder, but because we may not want to do business with the federal government and contract with them. We may not want to do business with the housing authority. That may take up to 2 to 3 months to get a person approved and into the property. That's why we don't want it. But this law was put into place thinking that those of us who don't take the voucher are doing so because we're racist. And so that's how they got that passed. But we know that's not true. And so in Kansas City, you're obligated to take a voucher. You're obligated to take someone who has had an eviction. You're obligated to take someone who had a criminal history, and what else?
How about a squatter's right?
Well, Section 8 is
Those
going to
are-
take you if you had an eviction. How can you make us?
That's the city council who listens to the socialist activist tenant group in town that they do all their policy from, even though those of us in the housing industry have sat down with the council members and with the mayor and said, this is going to have the opposite impact. And so what happens in Kansas City, and all of those things, you can't turn them away for evictions, for credit history, a low credit score, if they had prior damage to a property, criminal arrest history, they have a Section 8 voucher, if they have a voucher from any other place, private or public, if they get their income from some cash somewhere, you can't tell them that you must work on your job 2 years like lenders can. You can't say that you must earn 2 to 3 times the rent amount. You can't question their source of cash or income and where it comes from at all. And so they say, oh yes, you can, you just have to give them a chance. You have to talk to them, give them a chance. But if you don't, you set yourself up for a discrimination complaint with the Office of the Civil Rights Division with the city. Who wants their name associated with a complaint? I don't. And so
Stacey?
311, yes.
Clearly, none of the council members are investors.
Only one owns rental properties, but it's not her source of business. She has to be the mayor pro tem. none of them have listened to the rental property owners and the realtors, and the realtors mounted a fight against. That's our association and a group that I lead, the KC Regional Housing Alliance. We mounted a fight, we met with them and told them the problems, and they didn't believe us. They voted it in yesterday. We will be selling the properties we own in Kansas City. I have an investor who is in California who has 43 properties. 4 of his properties will be going on the market tomorrow. So people will exit the market. There'll be fewer things available, and our prices are going to go up. And so this is happening across the country. You haven't heard about this one yet. Good cause, just cause eviction. That is, in this country, this happens where a tenant's in your property for 12 months. And the lease is over, you're saying, hey, thank you, good doing business with you, and I'm gonna do something else with the property. The tenant can say, nope, I'm not going anywhere, and the tenant stays in your property for as long as they want to. You cannot make them leave your property. That is in place in this country. That is in place. And so we're fighting at a local level, we're fighting at a state level, and at the national level. I told you I'm part of the National Association of Realtors Property Management Forum. I'm asking those groups, our realtor organizations, to stop the craziness because it is in place across the country. And if we don't stop it and protect private property rights, we will lose them. And so me being able to retire because my properties are here will disappear. The socialists are putting these out.
Is this Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri?
Kansas City, Missouri, but please believe that it passed yesterday, it's going to spread. And it is in other places, this is in other places across the country, and it's in, Lawrence, it just passed in Lawrence. And so all of this stuff is happening, so we're watching it, and if anyone wants to watch it with me,
Can you tell us again, I'm sorry, can you tell us again what law was passed?
It's a source of income ordinance in the city of Kansas City passed yesterday. You'll see it in the news, the yellow t-shirts, the people with the yellow t-shirts who own not a single piece of real estate, creating our policy. Dr. Thomas Sowell said it, Thomas Sowell said it best. He said, one of the real problems is you have people making decisions for which they pay no price when they are wrong, no matter how high a price others pay. And so find your local Kansas City groups on these websites, it's normal. These are the groups, I mentioned the organization that I lead, the KC Regional Housing Alliance, and all of these different professional groups are part of our alliance, and I suggest that you join any of these groups if you choose to, or find others online. A lot of you know Maury, or Mary or Maury, you know that group. Johnson County Landlords, Investors, Landlords Inc., and the Realtors. These are organizations that are part of our alliance, and we keep people posted on what's happening. And I think I have, I'm not gonna show that. And so anyway, I'm saying keep tracking, and let me know, and I'll have my slide here for you to keep, give me your email address, so I can keep you posted on the efforts that we're taking. But these are the action steps. Set up your workshop for home buyers, set up workshops, investment workshops. We don't see people talking about that for our clients. We talk about home buyer, but what about investments? Retirement planning events, and you can set up booths at events. Get your marketing in order. You can use, how many of you know Canva? You know about Canva? Please look at Canva as a way to get not only a website to set up quickly, or web page for whatever your business is, or flyers. It's a great resource. They have a free and then a paid version. And so these are the action steps, but my goal for you is to find home buyers and investors, and workshops will do it. And so why not make sure you know that people know how to find you and get answers to what you're doing. And then, I'm sorry?
The site name for the.
Where?
Canva.
Canva at the bottom. It's for flyers and websites, easy and great flyers can come from there. And then I'll have my last one. Determine your goal, find your financing, assemble your team, and then just buy a property and repeat. Then I have a cute quote by me. You learn by doing. I just say, go do it. Just please do it. Buy one, and then it's easy to get started and continue to buy them. And so these are the books that I talked about. I'm gonna take a picture of that. Dave Ramsey, and then he also did a study of millionaires, and then Dennis Kimbrough, and that's the book that started it all. Who is the typical millionaire? Find these people on YouTube. It's easy. And then my favorite quotes: what you believe and focus on becomes your reality. And then this one I saw, cannot find who came up with it. Give a man a degree, he eats for his lifetime. Give a man a business, and his family eats for generations. That's what I say about real estate. And one of my favorite, as I end this, I see you, Catherine. Wealthy people plan for 3 generations, poor people plan for Saturday night. So my goal is that we're planning for 3 generations. I got 2 generations planned for. And so I want you to get started on that. And I think that is it. We've talked about questions. I think I have my information somewhere. There it is. And so if you,
Stacy?
yes, if you go here, this gives you a place to give me your email address. I can keep you posted on some of those tenant protection laws and the steps that we're taking. Yes? Yes?
Your mic went out,
Oh,
but can you go back to the books, please?
okay. Or might be handheld. Okay. Oh, help. I don't know how to get back to the books. Okay, thank you. How can I get back to?
You could just say it's Dave Ramsey, millionaire next door,
Somewhere near the bottom.
wealth choice.
That's right. So it is Dave Ramsey's book, his Total Money Makeover. It's somewhere near the bottom, Catherine. Total Money Makeover, it's at the very end.
The Millionaire
Dennis
Next Door.
Kimbrough, the
Wealth
Wealth
Choice.
Choice. What else do we have on there? The Millionaire Next Door, Dr. Thomas Stanley. And what was the first one? And then Dave Ramsey also had, Chris Hogan talking about the profile of the average millionaire, and that was just done in the last couple of years, so that's fresh and new. It's right before that one, Catherine. Okay, and so, okay.
Second question, Stacy, who was the gentleman in the front row that did the investment group with his brokerage?
What is your name?
James Keller with Remax Heritage.
Can you hear?
Summit.
James Keller, Remax Heritage Lee Summit.
Thank you.
Anything, I think we're leaving, I don't wanna be kicked out of here too hard. Was anything today helpful?
Yes.
Okay.
Very.
Please go share and tell people we need more investors amongst our own and amongst our clients. It's a way to build business and help change people's lives. Please go buy something. Please buy something. It is free. I think that is it. Thank you all
All
right, thank you everyone, thank you virtual attendees, you can log on, email education@kcrar.com if you have any questions about the session, we'll get you connected with Stacy if needed. Thank you everyone for being here.
Yes.
At least you can get that first one started and then you can refinance it.
Yes. Yes,
Wait a
ma'am,
minute.
right. Red Friday now. All right,
Have a good one.
good
Nice
to
talking to you.
nice
Thank
meet
you.
too. I'm gonna stay
Amen.
at the worksheet. Excuse me.
And it's really it's so in California. I said in one of these where is leaving, they choose to leave, then the they have rights to your property, and they can stay there permanently as long as they want. And our property is very, they have
Horrible.
Yes.
And then, so you go to Kansas City land. They're stressed so much that, they put them on this, but I believe. So that's all they're doing. They're scaring out.